G'day, mates. It's your host, Mary O'Neill Phillips, and you are listening to Country Outdoors Podcast.
I'm nervous.
I know you, but I don't know you, And there's I feel like everything that I know about you is music industry, the artists, and, everybody that I've met. I obviously know that you're from up in, what is that, East Tennessee? But I don't, but I don't know. I don't know, So, let's start at the beginning. I know you grew up rural, right? I scoured your Instagram to see what I could find.
I don't put a lot of the personal out there.
The only thing I could find on there was, starting at the beginning, was a photo of you farming on your grandpa's farm or in a John Deere to try and get your first cowboy hat. So let's start at the beginning. Back when you were a kid, life growing up. Guys, I'm here with Alan Mitchell from Erv Woolsey Entertainment. Are you VP of Artist Development?
New Artist Management VP.
VP of New Artist Management.
Yeah.
Met Alan 5 years ago, I would say, when we had Kylie French Fry, on our show. Alan has worked with Ian Munsick, the Davison brothers, George Strait is with Erv Woolsey, Leanne Womack. Alan's a big wig in town, but salt of the earth, and I'm really excited to dig in a little bit today. So let's start with, what was life like growing up?
So I grew up in a small town about 80 miles southeast of Nashville, Smithfield, Tennessee. Yeah. And I grew up working on my uncle's dairy farm and crops. He had dairy, but we also harvested crops and cattle and everything else. And then my grandfather had he was in a freight line business when I was real young, but he had his farms on the side that that I helped him out with. So I grew up a country boy.
That probably makes a lot of sense now as to why you love the Davison brothers so much and kind of where they're from and their story.
Yes, the Davison brothers, what I love about those guys is, first of all, they're salt of the earth. They really are salt of the earth. You don't find people that are more real and just musicians and authentic people in general. But I remember the first time, and at this point, I've been all over West Virginia with those guys, and I love it. And but I remember when I would go visit them in West Virginia, it reminded me a lot of home, of Tennessee. I guess you would consider where I grew up more Middle Tennessee. Now it is Middle Tennessee. But I lived when I was a kid. When I was graduated high school, I lived with my mom and sister, and we lived in a little house in a holler. Now the difference in my holler that I grew up in and the holler of the Davison brothers is a lot. It's a lot. Their hollers are a lot bigger than what I grew up in. But the rolling hills and whatnot, it was just I remember driving to their family farm was just like driving to mine, but it was a little bit bigger landscape.
I love that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That makes sense as to why you guys have had such a long relationship together and, get each other. I remember one of the conversations we had ages ago was, something that you, I guess, had picked up on what we do with Country Outdoors was that you appreciated the lifestyle that we live and the people that we bring in and the authenticity and stuff like that. So it makes sense now, starting to dig into your story a little bit about that. When did you start hunting?
I started hunting when I was a kid, and I was never very good at it at all. And I haven't done it as much as an adult. But I went on my first juvenile hunt when I was, how old are you, 8 or 9 years old that first time?
Turkey?
No. I've only turkey hunted very little. Because when I was growing up, there weren't, I don't know if you could hunt the turkeys yet in the county I grew up in. They had,
Really?
it was rare to see, and we had a big farm.
Not like how it is today.
Yeah, and now that you see them all the time, but if you saw turkey, it was damn near like catching Bigfoot in the wild. There weren't that many out there. So I never really turkey hunted. All my buddies around me do, and especially the Davison brothers.
Yep.
But I deer hunted, and I loved to fish, quail and dove and all that good stuff. And then when I got older and got in the music business, I was able to get with some buddies and duck hunt a little bit. and I really love the duck hunting. But I think I love the camaraderie that comes with duck hunting.
Yeah, me too.
As much as anything.
It's true. And there's kind of, each hunting sport has its own things that they offer. Turkey hunting and duck hunting, some people, even though turkey hunting's not as social as duck hunting, it still is, because you generally, you go out and turkey hunt by yourself, but a lot of us hunt in a pair or in threes or fours as well. And yeah, duck hunting, like with dove hunting, it's so social as well.
Yeah.
That's what I love about a good dove hunt. You generally have a huge crew of people. You generally have a couple beers at the end of the hunt, have a big cookout, and it's just social. It's the start of the fall and all that good stuff. Okay, so you went through, where'd you go to high school?
DeKalb County High School.
Okay, what was that like?
I enjoyed high school. I was I wasn't into sports. I was not good at sports. Yeah. I rodeoed when I was growing up, and
Gotcha.
And then when I was young, I played Little League and, tried basketball and but just wasn't that great at it. And then, but I ran with the, I guess you could say, the popular kids in school and whatnot. But I worked after school. I worked every Saturday, and then after school, I was always trying to figure out a way to save money to do something. Mm-hmm. I remember you go back to school and you get your clothes or whatever, school supplies or whatnot, and we'd go shop and get ready to do it, and I would get what my parents would say we can afford, and I could get what I wanted. And they were like, this is what we can afford. You want that, you're going to have to come up with it. So I started figuring out ways to come up with it.
So what would you do for work?
I'd work for my uncle on his farm. It was, it was a dairy farm. Mm-hmm. So we had, the dairy calves that would have to be fed in morning and afternoon, and so
it's hard work if you're getting up really early before school.
I never would have to do the morning stuff, but it would be the afternoon. I'd get them from school, and depending on what time of year it was. If it was hay season, you're helping to get the hay up. If it's harvesting the crops, you're getting this. We would chop it up and turn it into silage for the dairy cows, and and blow it into the silos. If it was summertime, it could be anything, fixing fence or whatever, or just farm life in general.
It's good work ethic to instill in it.
Man, it really was. There's just a responsibility that you get, and my uncle could probably watch this and be like, "Well, you weren't very responsible," but I feel like I learned a different kind of responsibility that you don't get if you don't have some type of deal. I have no regrets that I was not the all-time, jock, star football or baseball player. I like how I grew up. I had fun. It wherever I am today
is because
how I grew up, where I grew up, the friends, the family. That definitely made an impression on it.
Yeah, I know. I often think about that so my family have a farm in Australia, and my mum used to get us, my mum and dad, used to get us to hack the thistles up. So, we have huge thistles on our farm, and they'd have one of those, it's a, what do you call it? It's a pick, just a metal, what do you call that? Metal shovel, essentially. And you hack the thistles up manually. And we had thousands of thistles all over the bloody farm. They'd be, all right, go out there. That's your job. And so we'd bring friends down to the farm, and my friends would be saying, this is child labor. And we'd be doing that the whole time. Now I look around and I'm like, good on them for making us get out there and do some manual labor when we were 12 years old. I look back at that now and I'm like, those little things, it wasn't child labor, everyone. It was we had water and lunch and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they knew to get us up and get us working, and these are all the little things that get you to where you are today and make you not give up when things get tough. So tell us a little bit about the rodeo side as well.
So my cousins were great, man. My cousins were that I'm referring to at this particular set of cousins that I grew up with the most there. There were 5 of them, and they were 2 years apart. And then the youngest one was 3 years older than me. So his name was Derek. He ended up being more like an older brother to me than just a cousin. And but and they were my great aunt and uncles. So like, it was big family, and I was, my uncle, he would be my great. He was, I'm a great uncle, because he thought he was great, which he is, and so because of them, he was very involved. They had horses. I remember riding. First time I ever got to ride a horse, I was started like at 4 or 5 years old, and we had this the horse. His name was Drifter, and he was a big old tall horse. And horses typically when you get to kicking them or whatever, like they'll run or they'll trot, but he always knew. And he was probably, I don't know, he seemed like he was 20 hands tall, but he was probably 16 hands. But because I was such a kid, but like I remember if you had a kid on there, he wouldn't. You could just kick the living heck out of him, and he wasn't gonna run. And I remember trying to find like a hill to where typically when you go up a hill, they'll have to kind of gallop a little bit. Now he would just like.
He knew he had some.
He knew he had
cargo
on there, and so that's where it started. And I remember, after the years went by. Drifter actually, it was a Charlie Daniels rodeo in my hometown. One of my cousins, she was riding him. If I remember correctly, I think he had a heart attack in the ring and passed away there. But he was older. But man, it's funny how you remember things being that young. But
can you imagine how many kids were crying at that rodeo?
Oh, but yeah, and
probably still traumatized to today.
Well, I don't even know if they knew it was going on, but that happened. And then I remember. The next step, this is kind of crazy to go from such a big horse. The next step was, are you ready to ride Little Red? Little Red was the pony.
The Shetland?
And she was a wild little pony. But she was spunky. She was fast. And that was definitely a step up, even though you were coming way down.
Yeah.
Because she knew you were on there, but she was like, hey, buddy, you're on this ride. If you're here, you better ride. Otherwise, I'm not Drifter. And so I remember you could do everything. You could do the barrel racing. I could attempt to rope cattle off of her. It was great. And then as it got older, I junior rodeoed and tried calf roping and team roping, and then cutting. When I was in high school, I confidently say I was not great at any of them. My cousins, they went to the National High School Rodeo. They won state titles and would do great in high school, national out in, Cheyenne and all over Colorado and different places they would go. And then I was okay. I think I came in third one year in the cutting horse competition. But I loved cutting. But really cutting is really, if you've got a good horse and you know the mechanics of it. If you just put the reins down and hang on and let the horse do what it's trained to do. I think that's one of the things that helps out a lot. So I really loved the cutting. But when I was in high school, ironically, I guess I was a freshman or I was a sophomore. Because I was 15. I had a hunting accident, and that changed everything really for me for a few years there. And it's kind of what that's a story. Do you want that story?
Oh, we want the story.
Country Outdoors podcast is proudly presented by Nomad Outdoor. Guys, we've worked with Nomad Outdoor since the beginning of Country Outdoors, and there's a reason for that. They have the absolute best hunting apparel in the hunting industry. We have worn their clothing spring. We've worn their clothing in the fall. We've worn their clothing in the summer. We've worn their clothing on the ice. We've worn it everywhere. We absolutely love it. Guys, they're a Southeastern brand. They represent us. They represent sportsmen and women. Whether it's in the field or by the campfire, Nomad Outdoor has something for every occasion. So you'll come on, go check them out.
So I was deer hunting. It's a crazy story. Like it was the day before Thanksgiving. And I jokingly told my Spanish teacher, hey, I'm not going to be here in the morning.
Oh, Lord.
I'm going deer hunting. And my plan was to go deer hunting and still make it to class. And but I did. I went deer hunting, and I was in a tree stand. It's one of those where it starts out as one, and kind of as it gets taller, it comes into two trees. And there was a tree stand that we had made, with 2x4, and back then that's just what you did.
Yep.
And so we'd gone out there a couple of days before and scouted it out, and it was probably 20 or 25 feet tall. It was way up there because because just outside the field kind of did like that, and just inside the woods, the tree was higher up, so you could actually, when you were up there, you could see over the field. And so anyway, I was up there, and I'll never forget. I got lost trying to get to it that morning, and I was so disturbed with myself because I could hear the deer blowing. I felt like I'm scaring them off.
Yeah.
And I finally got into the stand, climbed up there, and was sitting up there, and I was sitting right on the center between the trees, which is fine. That was the, and then, but I'll never forget. It's crazy. It was like 6:25 for some reason. I had looked at my watch and AM, and I thought I saw a deer walking at the edge of these pines, and I kept like kind of scooting in. Is that a deer? And before I knew it, the board came out a little bit, and I looked down, and I was out from between the tree, and like I was looking, there was nothing on. And right about that time, it's like off of something out of a movie. I just heard, and the board, just the nails popped out, and it just did that. And I fell 25 feet, and I held the gun out. And I hit the ground, and I remember I got up, and I was like, oh, man, I felt like my ribs were broke, and there's just going to be a...
Did you, pass out at all?
I thought my ribs were broke. I might have spent a couple of days in the hospital. Everything was going through my mind. And so I just started walking. I was like, because my buddy...
Adrenaline.
My buddy was going to come, who had dropped me off, was going to come back about 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And get me. And when it happened, you had the distress signal to where you fire the rifle a couple times, then pause, and then fire it that third time. And no matter, that's just not a normal cadence. So people are going to be, something might be wrong. And so I remember I fired it one time. It was a lever action, Browning 243.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotten it for Christmas. I remember I got it off one time, and I thought the gun was jammed because I couldn't do it again. Turned out later it wasn't jammed. I didn't realize I was just so weak I couldn't even do that. But I remember I walked, and I crossed into over this fence into the field, and I was like, I couldn't go any farther. Like I hurt so bad. And I remember I just laid down. I had like there were jeans, but they were like a lighter color jean, and a green poncho, and my orange because I was hunting. And the only way I could find myself comfortable enough was laid back on the ground with my legs crossed and my arms crossed, almost
like a vampire.
Yeah, just like this right here.
Like you're going to your
like
grave.
I was in a casket already.
Man, no.
And it's the only thing I could do. And I remember just being in pain, but not knowing what was going on. And I remember I'll never forget. I looked up and I could see this buzzard was rolling around, and I'm like, and I remember thinking to myself, not today, buddy, not today.
This is not how I'm going
and,
out.
And then thank goodness, and this is where just something more starts coming to my. I got that shot off. My buddy he was a ways away, and he had not seen any deer that morning, and he heard that shot, and he was like, well, funny enough, he goes, maybe Alan got something. He goes, I can't imagine he got one, but off one shot, he probably missed, but I'm going to go see if I can see if he got something. So he ended up coming an hour earlier than he was supposed to. And when he did, he got there and he knelt down. He was like, are you all right? I was like, I'm good. Pull your Jeep up here. Just let's go to the hospital. So I got to go to the hospital. My uncle was a doctor, and he's like, I'm not going anywhere with that till I get Doc back here. He called him Doc. And so he came back, and my uncle got back there. And while he was going to get my uncle, because we were on our property or my uncle's property, but I'm talking, it would be like driving from here to downtown.
Yeah.
And so he randomly, a friend who I don't know if I've seen, this happened 30 years ago, more 30 something years ago now. And I don't know if I've seen this person twice since then, but they just happened to be coming back there because they were driving around trying to find a place to hunt that day. And he stayed there, knelt down and stayed with me while my buddy went to get my uncle. And that's when I started getting scared. Just because my buddy didn't think that I was as good as I was. He went, and so I'll never forget the comfort that guy gave me right there. We prayed, And then my uncle got back, and he kind of looked over me. I said, his name's Frank. I said, Uncle Frank, let's take me to the hospital. I'm good. And on the way out, we had to stop by and see my grandmother. And I was like, oh, she's gonna go crazy. You can't let. He's like, no, we got to see her. And she came out. And she was so calm, so good. And I'll never forget. We get to the hospital. I walk into the hospital, lay down, get in there, and they come after me, this, that, the other, and all that. And like, I'm from this small town, and the doctors that are in there, I'd grown up going to church with, and so they're looking over me and saying this, saying that, and at one point it was raining. They were trying to get Life Flight there, and they couldn't get Life Flight because of the weather, and all this going down. And I'm thinking, his name was Dr. Cripps. I said, now, Dr. Cripps, am I going to die? And I'll never forget. Like, at that moment, you're supposed to be, it's like the movies where they say, oh, no, of course. He looked at me, he goes, Alan, son, I just don't know. I got to check you out. And I remember, I'm like, this is where you lied to me. This is where you lied to me. Like, and I'm like, oh, I'm really in trouble. And long story short, we get to Vanderbilt. I spent Thanksgiving in Vanderbilt.
Did they drive you to Vandy?
It took me by ambulance at that point. So I did. I got in the right ambulance down there, and got down there. And then, long story short, that hitting the ground so hard, I lacerated my liver. I detached all the arteries but one little artery to my kidney. So I only have one functioning kidney. I'd broken my wrist, my ribs. While I was in the hospital, my lungs collapsed. Like, it just felt like
I didn't even know you could detach arteries like
that.
that.
Me either. But like, I have a little kidney. It's still alive, but not enough to function. It's got one little artery. Supposedly, and so I just finally kept all those days in there, and I remember I got out the next year. I went back to that same stand, and I climbed in. I'm like, I'm not gonna let this beat me. I'm gonna climb that stand. I didn't stay up there long, and I used a safety harness at that point, because back then, like, I don't think anybody would do it without a safety harness now. But back then, it was like, oh, you didn't. So, but yeah, so I used to love to hunt, still love to hunt, but so I have a heck of a story from deer hunting there.
Yeah, I would think that would kind of at least put a pause on it for a little minute.
It didn't really pause, but like, I went through I couldn't even, like, because the internal damage that it had done, they didn't really know what it was for a long time, so I couldn't ride horses for like a year. I couldn't have played sports if I would have been there were so many things that they could probably now figure out what was wrong, but back then they were just trying to be overcautious. And so
what was the recovery process?
I couldn't even lift, because it damaged my liver a little bit. I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds for many, many months. Not that I wanted to.
You weren't doing any work around the farm.
And then I slowly started coming back, working on the farm when I could. And I remember one time I broke my ankle playing softball, and I would still just cover the cast up with a plastic bag, and I'd go back to work on the farm, because that was like my senior year, and I was trying to save up money to go to college for whatever I was going to do.
That is a heck of a story. So you still have just the one kidney?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, faithful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've given her hell over the years.
Yeah, I've seen you having
I'm much kinder to her now. Past few years, I think we came to an agreement.
So I wonder, do you think change at the time? Were you still doing the riding, the rodeo stuff?
That's probably when the rodeo stopped, because I couldn't do it.
It's interesting.
And by the time that I was able to get back into it, and I wasn't like the all around cowboy guy. So it's not like I was fighting to get back there.
But do you think that had that accident not happened, do you think that was clearly a pivotal changing point for you in some way? Or
that's funny you say that. I think if that accident not happened, I'd be a totally different person. Yeah. I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah.
I don't say that bad. I don't know that, but like, I know that my outlook in life,
of course,
completely changed.
Totally.
My faith changed. It didn't change. My faith solidified, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know. don't know where I would have gone, but I know that I never forgot being that moment that I went through, and not that moment, that period of time that I went through, and like it just internally it kind of changed the way. I mean, I cried at movies easier.
No, it's good stuff, and it's funny how that guy that stayed there and prayed over you, you've only seen him a couple of times, but he had a big impact on your life, clearly.
Yeah.
Just the kindness that people can show you in those moments as well, and the faith too, like just, having hope in such dark moments like that. That's good stuff, Alan. So you have this injury, school, then do you go to college?
I did.
Yeah.
I went to Middle Tennessee State, and I was there for a minute. I loved school. I just didn't like school. I loved the social aspect.
Yep.
I ended up joining a fraternity, and though I had my fair share of fun in a fraternity, I was very involved in the leadership of the fraternity, which the people I met through that experience also probably led me to wherever I am today, because there was just a lot of different, and I learned how to deal with people and how to communicate with people. Because even in that fraternity, I was a Pike. I was Pike Alpha, and like I was big I became president of the fraternity, and I was big in the interfraternity council, the whole, that ruled the governing body of all the fraternities, and like you just learn. You think you're grown up at that point. But you're really not. And I learned so much about how to deal with many different personalities, and how you just have to cater to how that person thinks to try to move the ball and understand where they're coming from. So everybody thinks they're right, and, for a reason. People that are wrong don't think I'm wrong. I'm just going to be wrong. Just listen to me. They think they're right for a reason. I learned how to try to understand people, I guess. So I went to college in TSU. Took me a hot minute. I remember there was a semester. I was there for a few years, and I told my dad. I called. I said, "Hey, can I come home and stay with you guys?" He loves when I tell this story. Can I come home and stay with you guys for the summer, maybe a year? I'm just not sure where I am with school. I don't know what I do, and you'd be okay with it. And the truth is, he probably realized it then. I don't know. The truth is, I flunked out, and I just told him I just wanted to take some time off. But my dad had most of my life growing up had been very successful in the car business, whether it was from sales to finance manager to marketing manager and things like that. And I said, "Will you help me get a job selling cars for the summer or for the year?" And he said, "No." I said, "I won't." He said, "I think you'll be good at that, and you'll get comfortable, and that's fine." He goes, "But let's do this. Let's start a little landscaping company. We'll get some mowers. I'll help you get the business, and when the year's up, if you're ready to go back to college, you'll go back to college, or if not, we'll have started a little father-son business on the side." And he goes, "That's what I'll do." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." And I think it was at the end of that year, whatever it was, and I'd grown up on a farm. I knew hard work, but like I knew I was ready to try to get out of it. And my dad, like, he just had crazy heart problems earlier this year, and up until then, I feel like I work hard, but like physically, I couldn't do as much physical work as he does now, and he's recovering from major heart. He's a beast. But I found out. I looked at him and I said, "Dad, this is your dream, not mine. I'm going back to school." And
he knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing. And so I went back, and in that last year that I was in college, that's when I met the people who connected me to the next place. And so,
which was country radio, right?
It was. I interned at my last semester of college, my last spring, summer, and fall. I think I took about 52 hours of school. I mean, I jerked around, but I made up for it. And a lot of those were internships. I interned at multiple places, and the last place I interned was for the sales department at 103 KDF here in town, and it had only been gone from rock to country maybe a couple years. So, and that's where.
So that's an exciting time to get in there when they're growing too.
Yes. Well, it's not that. It's just like it was called 103 KDF The Rock. I mean, like it was a historical heritage station. Like they changed it on April Fools. It's a crazy joke because like no, I don't think anybody ever thought. Like I grew up again. There was a guy named Carl P. Mayfield was the morning show, and like he was a little risque, and I'd get in trouble for listening to Carl P. in the morning. But I grew up. I grew up in church and school and everything. I could sing, so I sang in school and church. I remember in high school we'd have every now and then we'd have like assemblies where a couple of times myself and a couple other people would throw a little karaoke concert, and they'd let the school of 800 people out for the afternoon, and I'd sing a song, somebody else would sing a song, somebody else would sing a song, and so whenever I got to, but I never, it's weird. I always knew that I didn't know what kind of hard work it was for somebody like George Strait to go out and sing in front of to get to where they could go out and sing in front of 30,000 people and them sing every song word back, and I would have dreamed of that, I loved that, but I always knew it was more work than I wanted to do for whatever reason, if that makes sense. But I remember I would watch the Grand Ole Opry with my mom and grandmother, and my mom would be like, that's going to be you one day. And I'm like, I want to know who those people are in the shadows over there, because those are the kind of people that are making it happen. That's kind of where I always had my head, but like it's also like I was 80 miles away, but honestly, at that time, I might as well have been from Australia. If you 2 miles outside of Music Row,
Right.
you didn't know anything different than people from across the country or the world. About what music, how it was. I thought the greatest songs just always rose to the top. You just didn't know. But when I worked at that country radio station, I loved working at a country radio station, but I hated selling advertising.
Yeah.
I was probably great at it now. I'm more jaded, but at the time, you had to go find your new clients, and a lot of times they were brand new, mom and pop up and things. And advertising works, but it doesn't work every time. And then you have to spend time. Maybe it works in the first right off, or maybe it takes 90 days for it to click in. But I realized it wasn't for me, and I'd become buddies with the program director at the radio station, and weirdly, like everybody around me were like, "What are you doing and working for a radio? So you need to be in the music business." And I'm like, "Well, I don't even know what that means, And it got to the point to where my boss pulled me in and for sales, and he said, "So what's going on, Alan?" He said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "You happy?" I said, "Yeah, I'm happy." He goes, "Do you see yourself here down the road?" And in my mind, again, I thought, well, you guys taking a chance on me, hired me right out of college. I was getting a draw, living off my draw, but not making my draw. And I was like, well, when I start making my draw, because I felt like then they would have not wasted their time on me, I'm going to try and find a job doing what I really want. And I'll never forget. He looked at me and he just kind of laughed. He goes, I haven't wasted any money or lost any money on you, Alan. And he goes, let's do this. It was in August. He goes, I'm going to write you a check today for what your draw would have been for the rest of the year. He said, and you're going to walk out of here. He goes, and you're going to go and you're going to find yourself a job and not be jobless at Christmas. He goes, and we both know it needs to be in the music business. And I thought, are you kidding? Wow, this is somebody besides my mama telling me that I need to. Did you see that? It's like when you're growing up, the kids they go to try out for the music competition or what, and they're terrible. Well, my mama tells me I'm good. I'm like, really? You see that in me? And that's what I did. And I'd gone and I found a guy who I'd met while working there, and I said I'd graduated, so I couldn't intern in college anywhere. You had to get the school credit. And I went to him. His name was Nick Hunter. I said, Nick, can I come intern at your independent label? And when I'm good through the end of the year, and if I can meet some people, hopefully by the first of the year I'll be able to get a job, and I'll just use this as an opportunity. That's what we did. And at the end of the semester, it wasn't at the end of the year, he was growing. He had grown the little independent label, and they were going to make a a shot for mainstream radio with David Lee Murphy with a song, and they were going to hire a couple radio promotion people, which are the people who get the songs played on the radio, and he hired me. He said, he goes, you're going to get your shot with me if that's what you want. And I'll never forget. Like, I just couldn't wait to get up and get to work every day. I could backtrack and tell you how I really got in the music business.
Do it. I want to hear. This is good stuff, Alan. A movie needs to be made about this. This is
You're
seriously.
So what I was very active in that fraternity. We moved on into fraternity houses on to Fraternity Row, and I'd been active with the student government and the faculty and everything. So like that morning they were interviewing. We were moving on a Saturday morning, and I remember one of the local, I think she was NBC, Saturday morning beat reporters or whatever. She came and she interviewed me just because I was involved with the changeover, and she interviewed me about moving on Fraternity Row and this, that, and what she was there doing. At the end of it, she said, "Have you got any questions for me?" I said, "Yeah, I'm about to graduate in 6 months." I said, "I'm majoring in on-air broadcasting, just like you did." She said, "You have any suggestions?" I said, "You have any suggestions?" She said, "Yes." She goes, "Either go write a story or go find a story that's already done, but make it your own. But either way, go out and make the very best audition tape you can. Do it as many times as you can to get it right. And then when that's over, send it to everybody across the country, every station in the country." And she goes, "When I did that, I got 3 offers. I think she said one was like somewhere in South Dakota for this amount of money. One was in Tri-Cities, Tennessee for this amount of money. And one was somewhere else for this amount of money." And really, in my mind, none of them were for the amount of money that I thought I was going to get graduating college. I thought, man, I got to go to, bum South Dakota to make that amount to be good to get to Nashville to get that. I'm like, man, I'm going to go back and change my major to management, and I'll go in and doing sales and end up sales and advertising or running a radio. Because everybody else, why do you want to do on air? You've got the personality for sales. That's where the money is. And I just thought, I thought I was going to be, I'll date myself now, Tom Brokaw or some legendary news reporter off of on someday. And then for whatever reason, I like, yeah, that's that. And I thought I was mature back then. That ain't enough money.
Turns out it was probably a good decision because you still get paid about $35,000 starting in radio.
Well, it was not even anywhere near there. And so that story, long story short, I go through that, come back, change it, get that internship with the radio station, go through everything, then come out and go to work for that little record label. And the ironic thing of the deal is that first job in the music business, I got paid the same or less than any number that lady had told me that I could make being an on-air person. And I could not wait to get up and go to work every day because I'd found my passion. I'd found my love. And I tell people, if I can ever tell you this, chase your dream, chase your passion. And at the end of the day, most of the time you make enough to be happy. And I don't know if maybe that's millions for what you end up doing. Maybe that's $20,000 or $30,000 a year, but chase your passion. Because like I've been doing this a long time, and I've just had ups and downs now, but I've never hated going to work.
Yeah,
I've never dreaded a day of work, or something or anything like that. And so that's how I got my first deal in the music business, and then from there it just kind of moved to the next.
Zach, myself, and the Country Outdoors family are proud to have Hawk Optics as a sponsor. When it comes to clarity, precision, and overall quality of the product, we have found Hawk Optics to be top of the line and field tested their products year round and had great success. You can check out this example here on the screen of my recent Colorado elk hunt where I harvest this monster bull elk using the Frontier 30 SF hooked up onto my fix from Q. All right, guys, I have a confession to make. I have a terrible sense of direction, and it's no wonder I haven't got lost in the woods or eaten by a bear at this stage, but there's a reason for that, and it's because I have onX Hunt. Onyx Hunt is incredible. It's an incredible mapping feature, and it has helped me navigate my way out of some pretty sketchy areas using the compass feature. I've been able to get back to my truck. I've been able to drop pins and waypoints to be able to coordinate how to get to A to B, to be able to find that turkey that I saw on the road and knock and get permission. Guys, though, if you really want to know who's a fanatic at dropping pins, it's my husband, Zach. If you look in his phone, he has thousands of these pins. If it was the 1920s, he'd be able to trade them and get some money out of them. But don't take my opinion. Go and download Onyx today and check it out for yourself. Good luck this fall.
So when did you meet Irv?
Right in the middle of all that I just told you.
So that was, when's this? Is this like
So
2010?
Oh, no. Thank you for thinking I'm that young. This was back in the early 2000s. I met Irv when I was interning at that radio station.
Gotcha.
I've had a lot of influential people that have been a big part of my career over the years for me. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm this big, gigantic executive, but to get to where the things I've done, there's been a lot of people that have believed in me and been close with. But probably the first one was Irv, and it's just ironic how it happened. I was working at that. I was interning at that radio station still, and I was out. There was myself and a friend of mine. Her name's Tammy, and she and I both. She had just came from Georgia, and she was working at the radio station selling advertising. And she was a few years older than I, but like nobody else in this radio station ever wanted to go out and have drinks. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to work for the radio station. And it's going to be like happy hour. We're all going to have fun. This is entertainment business.
Yeah.
But Tammy and I would go roll around and have fun together. And we ended up at Tootsie's one afternoon. And I was that kid who grew up reading the liner notes. I knew everything about music. I knew who the writers were, who the managers were, who the label heads were, who wrote the songs. I watched it, VH1 behind the music, and I'd watch the CMT videos to see all the credentials at the end, credits, and I just all that fascinated me. I loved the how it was created, and I'll never forget. I looked at the bar, and I said, I think that guy's name's Erv Woolsey, and he manages George Strait. And she looked at me and she said, well, we'll find out. And she walked up to him, and she's a very pretty girl. And she walked up to him and she tapped him on the shoulder, and he turned around and she goes, hey, are you Erv Woolsey? And I'll never forget. He turned around and looked and kind of turned, and then he kind of turned back and looked again. He goes, why, yes, I am. And I thought, and one thing led to the other, and we just kind of talked. Well, we work at KDF, and he goes, oh, I know Paul Lyle and Steve Dickert, and these were the GMs and sales managers. And after that, it went from, I'd see him out the next time, and he said, well, tell him I said hello. And I'd be like, well, hey, I told him you said hello. And then we talked, and then it just kind of led into where we became buddies. And like, you know, I grew up on a farm. He grew up on a ranch in Texas. I grew up on a farm in Tennessee. I grew up loving horses. He grew up loving horses and riding horses. I grew up loving thoroughbreds and the racehorse. He grew up owning a whole lot of thoroughbreds and racehorses. And I loved all music, and I loved the old music too. And he was a promotion guy as well, but didn't know what that was at the time. But he was a promotion guy, and he had worked so many of those hits back in the 60s and 70s and all genres of music. So he loved he didn't just manage the king of all country at the time. He loved all music. So we just got along, and we became buddies, and from buddies he went to a mentor, and from a mentor it grew into even more. And somewhere along the way, it's like he became a guardian angel of my career, because when I did start meeting people in the music business, working in music, like he was always making sure the right people knew about the young, passionate kid from Smithville that was trying to and so all over the year. I mean, one time I got a raise because somebody came after me to offer me a job, and I went to and it's all because he wasn't trying to get me anywhere. That somebody would say, "Hey, he'd be young, up and coming," and he would say, "Yeah, Alan Mitchell," and so it just kind of turned into a relationship like that, and then time goes by. I become a promotion guy like he was. Worked for multiple labels, and then several years ago now, it's a few years ago, I was leaving a little independent label that had unfortunately abruptly gone out of business, and I'll never forget. We were at the races, and in Kentucky, and we were sitting in the bar, and he said, "Now, Alan," he goes, and I was planning on working on this other deal with some buddies to start a little independent promotion company. And he said, if this deal doesn't work out with your buddies of the independent promotion deal, he goes, maybe you come over to me and we start our own young stable of artists. And I said, well, if that's what you're saying, I don't know if I want the other. He goes, that's it. You're coming to work with me. And, and that's where that started. And then it was just like an apprenticeship. And it grew to really, blow my mind that when I was growing up and I was working on that farm and I was dreaming, driving the tractor in the field or whatever I was doing, I always dreamed of bigger. I've always been a dreamer. And I used to tell him that, I've always been a dreamer. And when he gave me that opportunity, I said, I don't, this is, he goes, this is, I told him, I said, this is beyond this is a dream come true. And in typical Irv, I never figured he was paying attention to when I would make that comment. And he just looked at me and he kind of lowered his glass. He goes, well, you've always been a dreamer. And I thought, I said, well, that's true. And I'd grown up working on my uncle's farm, trying to save my money to where I could buy the George Strait Resist All cowboy hat, and here I somehow ended up mentoring under the guy who was a part of like the development of the career of the king of country music, and honestly one of music's greatest icons.
I think that God has a really good sense of humor with that stuff.
I do too.
Yeah.
And so like it's been a crazy road for me.
And so you then bring in, who was the first artist that you guys brought in?
Man, we worked with multiple. I think the first one was because we had our trial and errors. Like, he was very much. I learned because I learned by the experience. He wasn't a guy who came in and said, hey, this is what you do, blah blah blah. He opened a door, would walk you in there, and he'd be like, this is what you make of it. He didn't say that, but that's kind of That's kind of how it was. I remember early on, I had this I don't even remember what it was or who it was. I just remember I had this grandiose idea, and I went to him. I was like, well, I'm gonna try this. He goes, okay, buddy. So I go try it, and it didn't work. And I came back and I said, oh, buddy, that didn't work out like I thought it would. He said, well, I didn't figure it would. I said, well, why did you let me do it? He said, oh, buddy, I got to let you fall every now and then, but I just can't let you hit the ground. And I thought to myself, wow. I guess now, I think about that a lot, and now that he's gone, we're navigating new waters. I guess I sometimes worry if I'm gonna hit the ground, because there's so many times you go back to him like just things I knew probably would work, but you just always had that, hey, what do you think about this? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
You still got prayer though.
Oh yeah.
So, you just touched on that, but I've passed away. What is it? 6 months now?
March 20th.
March 20th.
Day after my birthday.
Nice that he was there for your birthday, though. So going forward now, did he have in place what the next steps were for Erv Woolsey Company?
I think it was kind of, we had already short answer, probably not necessarily, because he was nowhere thinking about this.
Yeah.
But we always knew that, the idea was to, as it grew, it would one day, whether he retired or this, eventually down the road he did pass on, like his son, Clint Woolsey, and I, and, and the rest of the team would roll on with it. And his son, Clint, is very much doing that. He's taking the reins, and he's working with everybody in the company. And we're a small company, and I'm probably the most recent hire, and I've been there several years now. He was just very tight knit, and so that's one of the things we've been kind of doing the past few weeks to the month, kind of just really navigating and getting our bearings straight and seeing what this new world's going to look like, and
where you step up,
yeah,
and where things,
yeah. And so Clint, so it's been good. Clint and I have spent a lot of time together, and kind of trying to plan out and develop our own hopes and dreams with everyone else there to go. But the good thing is he left such a legacy and a platform, and you're never going to become. I don't aspire to be Erv Woolsey. I just hope I'm successful. I guess I'm successful. But I'm successful enough to, to continue to make a career out of this, because our deal was like, like I'll never be able to do for someone what he's done for me. Like he did so much, and I'm not talking about monetarily or anything like, just the things he did, the opportunities, just giving me this opportunity. But I'll never stop trying to help somebody out, and in my own way to try to do that, because that was, that was our handshake deal. He and George were notoriously known for their handshake deal, but our handshake deal was to pass it on. If this works out, everything goes like we plan, you don't owe me anything, but try and find somebody to pass it on, to give them an opportunity as well.
Yeah, you're blessed to have had that relationship in your life, but I think the big thing that you can take away from that as well is the monetary and all of that aside, having one person believe in you, even just saying, I believe in you, I know you can do this, is so powerful, so profound. I know that from my own career, from the 99 people that would say you're going to fail and you're chasing clouds, and the one person that said, absolutely, I can see this is going to be successful. Go to the United States, you crazy girl. It's true though, and you have been that person though in so many artist careers. Look the Kylies and the Ians and all of that. And so in terms of like the artists that you're working with now, and like how does that look in terms of a mentoring relationship with them?
Kylie, the Davison brothers were probably the first ones that we started work. Actually, we first started with an artist named Tyler Reeve. He's become a successful songwriter, but he was the first artist we managed. And but right about that time was the Davison brothers, and like I was saying earlier, but those guys are so great. Chris Davison is a manager himself. I jokingly say he helped me learn how to be a manager just as much as anybody, because he doesn't realize how much he is one himself. But then from the Davisons, it was Kylie, and I remember it was a big deal to partner with Kylie, because there were several people that were wanting to work with her. But I loved her. I loved and Irv as well. She's got the traditional country music. She grew up in rodeo. She grew up, with a strong work ethic. And she knows who she is, and what I loved, I used to tell people when we first started working together, like, if she says she wants to go to Florida, we're going to Florida. She maybe she'll listen to me on telling her how to get there quicker, or save money on gas, or whatnot, but like my job's to get us to Florida, and it's really fun to work with her as an artist because there's a brand there to build and grow, and it's tough being a female artist because for everything, it's the success that she has had, it's not been the one that just takes her over the top. She's resilient. And
slow burning, but she's had huge success in. Gosh.
And and that's, I thought you say slow burn. That's what I tell her all the time. We're a slow build for a long burn.
Yeah, 100%.
Takes a little longer to stay a little longer.
Exactly, and we talk about this a lot, but it's sometimes you are frustrated by that when you're in this social media viral phase that we're all in, where there's these overnight successes, but that doesn't mean they're going to be there in 10 years' time. And, I know I'm a big fan of Kylie, obviously, and she is a slow burn. She's so talented, but she's already had huge success as it is.
She's done great, yeah.
Yeah. So what are the next steps for you? What's your vision?
We're going to
professionally and personally. Well, they kind of mash together, don't they? Because your personal life is your professional life.
Yeah, my I eat, sleep, and breathe what I do, but I love it. It's like that's, I would love to continue to. One of the things we're doing is growing our publishing company. We have a small publishing company called Wimberly Publishing, which is named Wimberly because that's where Irv was from he's from Houston, but his family had a ranch in Wimberly, and so it's called Wimberly Music. And I think we're going to plan to try and grow that. But also I think in the process of growing that is working with up and coming artists. We've got a few artists that we just signed. This new kid, his name's Jackson Chase. He's from Tuscaloosa, and he's in this world, he's brand new, but like he's 18 years old. But when you're talking to him, it feels like you're talking to someone much more mature. He's from, like I said, Tuscaloosa, and he's traveled. He tours a lot around Alabama and the Florida area, and he's already building a little brand for himself. He's got a unique sound, and he's just a good kid. His family have worked with him and really believed in him and helped build him to get to where he is now. And I actually, another friend of mine turned me on to him a couple years ago. Said, "Hey, will you go see this artist? This kid, he was probably 16, and he was playing at Rippy's. And for some reason, I went to Rippy's on a Tuesday afternoon, but that's not what I would typically do. No. Terrible parking. You get down
Usually
there.
loses.
Yeah, it's just my home turf. And I'm a creature of habit, even though I don't want to admit it. And so I was down there watching him play, and I thought, well, there's something, he's 16, he's singing cover songs, but there's something here. And I just kind of kept watching him and had my buddy stay and keep me up to date on it. And about 6 or 7 months ago, really about the time all this went down with Irv, he called me and said, "Hey, come see him play. He's playing a writer's round tonight. Come check him out." And I did, and something that you could just tell he had grown. He was just about to graduate high school, but like his writing had evolved, and his sound was more evolved. And then I just continued to go check him out at different places over the next few months, and for whatever reason, I just continued to be drawn to him. And then when we got to talking, and got to talk to him with his dad and his mom, I told Clint, and Clint had been out there with me to see him a few times. I was like, there's a lot of work ahead here, but I just feel like there's something special about this kid. I think people just have things that certain people have opportunities that come before them that other people don't. There's just a natural law of attraction there for whatever reason, and he seems to have that. And I think a lot of people, just because you have that doesn't mean you become very successful, but if you get the right people around you, it certainly does. And I hope it certainly gives you a shot. Yeah. And I hope that we're just the beginning of the right people around him. And so I'm excited about Jackson. I'm excited about Kylie. I'm excited about Nick Davison, who is the nephew of the Davison brothers.
Yeah.
He's the son of Donnie,
That's
the nephew of Chris.
Yep.
And he is like, I call him like a country John Mayer.
Those guys are such a talented family.
You know, the first time I heard Nick, he was about the same age as this kid I was just. He was still in high school, and I would go with Chris to West Virginia, and we were we'd gone to like the VFW. His dad's just the bluesiest white guy you've ever seen, man. Like, he is just full of rhythm and soul and rock and roll. He is awesome. Eddie Davison, like and so, but Nick jumped up with him and said, I'm going to play this is the first song I've ever wrote this particular time. And it was called Fool's Gold. And it was pretty much like a play off the Gold Digger type thing, but it was a play off of Cole, because they were in West Virginia. And I remember thinking, I've still got the video somewhere where I took the video that night, sent it to Irv that night, and I'm like, what have we got here? You know, and we've just kind of grown that. And he went to college. He was a wide receiver at WVU for a couple years, and then I think he transferred to a smaller school and played there. But I remember where he was like, before he did that, he was like, man, I remember sitting with him and his dad, and he was like, should I just quit school and, you know, come to Nashville? Music's what I'm going to do. Well, I know that's what I'm going to do. I was like, man, you know what? You go finish your degree. You're going to play football, get it taken care of, you know. Your mom's works for the FBI. Let's not mess with her. But anyway, I said, you know, just go do that, and then you've got time. Then come to Nashville. And about that time he did do that, and about the time he graduated, the pandemic happened, and so it was delayed. But when he came to town, we were, I told Irv, and I said, hey, I don't think that he's one where you like put down on Broadway or put in that 11 to 2 o'clock in the morning slot, 11p to 2 o'clock in the morning slot. But like, if we can put him at Losers on Thursday and Friday, maybe a Saturday, 5 to 9 or 10, everybody, executive wise and writer wise and artist wise, at some point comes through Losers.
Yeah.
Happy hour.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, let's go talk to Steve, which is Steve Ford, Irv's partner in the restaurant and bars. And Steve was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so we did. And it was, the good thing was, a lot of times in that spot, you're playing to nobody. And then you get playing to the crazy crowds that come in. And you have to learn how to entertain them, to make them like pay attention to you.
Yeah.
At all. And, you know, and the good thing about him is he could be singing a Morgan Wallen song, and like, you'd think it was, is this a new song he wrote? And you're like, no, it's a Morgan Wallen hit, because he could just make things his own. And one night, you know, I'll name drop a little bit because it's fun, but we were sitting there at the bar, and that's when things started happening. I was like, this was our artist development plan. And I'm standing there, and I'm talking to Michael Ray. And then I saw this girl that was standing next to me, and she had this 80s get up on, you know, she and her girlfriends looked like they were doing the 80s, you know.
Bachelorette.
Yeah, but they weren't bachelorettes. And I was like, this girl looks familiar. And I guess I was staring at her. He goes, you know my friend Colby? And it was Colby Calais. And I was like, oh, yeah, of course I know Colby. And then next thing you know, Colby is watching Nick. She's painting. I can tell she's painting. I'm like, he's good, isn't he? She's like, this kid's unreal. So we started chatting back and forth. And it's crazy when Nick is truly, he's a Colby Calais fan. And so next thing you know, her and her friends are dressed in their 80s, and they're down right there in front of the stage. And one of her friends requests a Colby Calais. He goes, Colby Calais? Yeah. He was like shocked somebody requested that, but he knows it because he's a fan. And I've got videos where this kid is literally singing Colby Calais to Colby Calais and has no clue. And I was like, this is beautiful. And next thing you know, they were talking, exchanged numbers, and they became friends. And he ended up, and she became somewhat of a mentor to him. And he ended up playing harmonica on her album for one of the songs. And then on her 15th anniversary of the Coco tour, she took him out on tour, and he opened for her across the country. Him and his acoustic guitar and telly, because he plays the telly, the acoustic, the piano, the mandolin, the harmonica. He does it. I mean, he, like I said, he kind of looks like the John Mayer look about him. So I can't stand him for number one because he's just a good looking dude. I'm kidding. I love him. He's my buddy. But I'm excited to see what's coming for him. And then We got a lot of things cooking. I don't want to say too much because I'll forget somebody.
So tell me this. For any of the aspiring talent that are watching, listening,
People are going to be watching this?
they're going to be watching this.
Oh, man, I'd have held my better side a little bit.
We've got you lit. You look great. Firstly, would love you to give some tips, pointers on what you think helps in pursuit of a artist or musician career in Nashville. And then also on what you see, like, if some people just have it and don't have it. Is that something that you see a lot of? Like the pursuit of fame versus the pursuit of the craft?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. I think that I definitely think that I go back and I say that I think people are born, people that become stars, it's cliche. I think they're born to be stars. I think there are a lot of people that are born with whatever that is, that they don't become stars because it go back to where I say you got to find the right people in your life to help bring that. But there's something about you. Like you can take this person right here, they can be identical twins. They can sound alike. They can say the same thing. You can't tell them apart. But for whatever reason, there's something you're going to be drawn to one over the other. It's like a magnetic type. I don't know. But I think there are, and things just happen. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're a little luckier. Maybe they're luckier at blackjack. But I think there is just, like, well, man, I've been trying forever to do this, and this guy just walked in it like that. I think there is something to the fact that there's just a natural universal thing. I don't think I think that can be overcome but you have to have a lot of self-awareness and really dedicated to your grit and dedicated to your craft and just really overcome
and be really good
and be really good.
Yeah.
Man, this is a tough business. I think it's tough if you're trying to be on the executive side, maybe just as much as the artist side, because your dreams and aspirations are different. Like, even though they're different, your dreams and aspirations to be an artist are different than your dreams and aspirations to be an executive, but they're still your dreams that you're giving every bit of you have into it. And for everybody out there that wants to be an artist that's successful in this town, there's people that want to be executives that's successful in this town, that are successful in this, and like, so, yeah, I think you have to try to always evolve. This town can eat you up and spit you out and throw you down there. Like it's just, and I don't think it means to. I just think it's just the law of nature. I think when you come to town, you got to be ready.
Country Outdoors is thrilled to have partnered with Moultrie Mobile. This fall is an extremely busy fall for us. We've just been out in Colorado elk hunting, and now I have my Iowa tag that I drew, and Zach and I both drew Kansas, which means we're going to be scattered all across the country. So we've done the same with our cameras this season. That means we can get the intel in the field when we aren't there. As you guys know, when it comes to those big bucks in the Midwest, as soon as they pop out, you want to get out there as quick as you can. And because of Moultrie's crystal clear images and videos and the ability to connect to all 4 US cellular networks, you're never going to have to worry about getting those images and videos when you need them. The app is also loaded with amazing features like weather, mapping, and buck prediction in the game plan feature. Get an edge with the Moultrie Edge 2 series cameras and the Moultrie mobile app. When you think of the biggest hunting shows, the most legendary hunting shows in outdoor television, what channel do you think of? Outdoor Channel. Country Outdoors is very proud of our partnership with Outdoor Channel, which started during the pandemic in 2020 with our Turkey tour, which has now evolved into our popular adventure series 4 years later. We are available on all Outdoor Channel digital outlets, including My Outdoor TV. And guys, they're giving out a free subscription to My Outdoor TV, so go and check it out.
Do you? Something that I have seen quite common in success stories in this town. A few things that I've seen. Number one, the people who don't leave and stay and maybe are here for 10, 15 years generally have a higher success rate than the ones who flake around, come back and forth, don't truly commit to just being here. Number two, I think that finding a really good network, a really good group, a solid group around you, that seems to be pretty top of the chart, I think, for what I have seen in my friendship circles of people that have had success. And not necessarily like, I'm not talking the George Strait level, but like for those who I'm seeing in that next gen group that are paving forward, the Laneys,
I think people,
the Kylies, all of that.
it's like classes.
Yeah.
People, Luke is, Luke Combs, people he came to town with are some of the most successful songwriters with him, and then people that he was, and then the people that he was hanging out with at the different writers rounds or what I was going to. I remember, and I think it's like, it's kind of like that on the business side as well. Mm-hmm. You'll have singer, songwriter, artists that kind of grow, and then you'll have the up and coming business people on the side that are kind of growing as well. I remember the class that I remember, because they were taking off about the same time, I feel like I was starting to get some traction and on the label side as on the executive or whatever is like you had Jamie Johnson, Lee Bryce, Dallas Davison, Randy Hauser, Jared Neiman. I'm probably leaving somebody. Rob Hatches. A lot of those guys were like, most of them they do their the Georgia thing that they do.
That's still a great route.
I remember doing that one like at a little bar called Chi-Town or something on Demumbrian like that.
Yeah.
It's grown, and now they're doing it at the Ryman.
So finding that core group is pretty important
because you have to support one another.
Yeah, and being truthfully supportive.
And being and support it, and and that's the big. I think you find the right people that believe in you and dream as big as you do.
Yeah.
But they're also trying to help you along the way.
Yeah. A couple of do's and don'ts.
Don't get caught up in the bars. I can say that from experience.
Me too.
But I do think it's good to go out and mix and mingle,
but you don't need to be the last person there
and meet
every time.
people, and you can but don't that. But it just as much of anything else is go meet people, whether it is going to the Losers or the Tin Roofs or whatever. Man, go to writers' rounds. Go to workshops. Go to whatever. There's so many opportunities that you can really seek out to learn that people are trying to do to get to where they're going. This just like you are.
Mm-hmm.
But really find people to mentor from and to learn from, to ask questions. I forget sometimes people are genuinely asking me questions sometimes, and I'm like, why are they asking me this? I'm not the expert here, which I'm not, but maybe they don't know better. But I still want to. You have to sit back and like, hey, you were that kid too.
Yeah.
You were that person that was trying to ask all those questions and learn, and you just trying to meet people. Mm-hmm. That's what I did a lot. Was really network, and I think that it's a different era now. Not as people don't go out like they used to. In general, I mean, they do, but the only way when I first came, like the artists, the people that are working on the business side, you're all going out and mixing and mingle and having drinks, learning how to tell your story. I worked with an artist not long ago, and I realized that he was having a difficult time telling his story. I'm like, what's the issue here? And then it hit me. It was right during the pandemic, and he had not had the opportunity to go out and tell your story every night. Just like you asked me what my story was like. How many times has that been told? like you learn how to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I think that's one of the biggest things, but being real, just be yourself and respect people.
Mm-hmm.
I say this is people want to call it an old boy town. Maybe it was an old boy town back in the day. I think it's an old person town because there's a lot of different executives from all different arenas. But when you come to town or when you meet somebody, if they recommend you somewhere, they're putting their name on the line. And if I recommend Mary O'Neill over here to someone and you go over there and you knock them out, you're like, man, buddy, thank you for sending Mary to me. Well, they didn't do me a favor. I did them a favor. But you go over there and you make an ass of yourself and me. Oh, buddy, Mary, I did that Mary for you for Mary. I don't know about the next one, but if it's great, then the next one, it's a favor until they win them over, and it's not a favor. And I think people like you work so hard to get to where you are, you don't want to let somebody down and so I think people you kind of like weed out the people you want to put your stamp your name on, and it does take that that. So I think that's why people say, well, you got to get through the gatekeepers or this, that, and yeah, there are gatekeepers, but I think that a lot of it is reputation and people wherever they are, whether it's the biggest manager in town or a record executive in town or the intern he got there too. Like you just find your way up the ladder, however high the ladder you go or lateral or whatever.
It's true. That's a really great way to put it. It's everybody who is somewhere, no matter where they are, has worked really hard to get to where they are. And so, yeah, it's a reputation, behind every yes and no. That's good stuff. Well, thank you, Alan.
I don't know.
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on like your story, but it's nice to get to kind of know your upbringing a little bit more, and it makes so much sense now, why you guys love Kylie and Irv and paring back your history and the Davison brothers and all of that a lot more. And I'm really excited to see what's going to go on with you guys. And
me too.
Check out. I'm not surprised of the Davison pool, genetic pool, and with Donnie's son as well being in town and all that stuff too. So they've got It's good stuff, and we're excited to see Kylie's baby coming.
Oh man,
she's just about to pop. She's coming in here on Friday.
Friday or tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Kylie's coming in here tomorrow, and she said to me, we'll do an afternoon podcast, and then we'll have dinner, but there is a chance I could go into labor. And I said, well, please do on camera, because that's great content for me.
Yeah, I think she's hoping maybe. I think she's ready to get it over with, but she's, I think August 23rd is her.
She'll probably be overdue. That's usually how it goes, the first one.
Oh, is
She's
it?
lucky she'll.
Were you overdue?
Oh, my gosh, I was so overdue. Have you not seen? I was back in Australia for the last 2 months, but I was a whale. I was so overcooked, swollen, waddling everywhere. But anyway, we'll be staying in touch. And so for everyone who's watching, what's the next exciting thing that they can tune in to for you and for Erv Woolsey Co and the artists?
I don't know. That's really put me on the spot.
Okay. Kylie's pregnancy.
Yeah.
On the podcast.
Actually, yeah. Be looking to see if Kylie comes up. Will her podcast be after mine or before?
Make sure it's after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe she's the true entertainment there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna be a manager uncle.
All right. So what is coming up that you can let everybody know about?
Well, we were talking about the Davison brothers, and I keep talking about them a lot, but like they've been out a lot with this past year with Oliver Anthony. They really connected the same booking agent, and they connected, and Oliver and Chris Davison have become. I think Chris even just recently had the first co-write Oliver's ever done. So but what I'm excited for those guys, first of all, I guess when this comes on, they will have just gotten back from Australia, but they're about to go over to Australia to play is it the Gimpy Muster?
Yep.
The Gympie Muster for that. So that'll be their third time in Australia in the last several years, and then they're going to be playing. Is believe it or not, as successful as they are throughout West Virginia and the Appalachians, they haven't. I think Chris will be proud because I said Appalachia right. They haven't played this West Virginia State Fair a great deal, and they're playing the West Virginia State Fair with Oliver Anthony. So I think that's really cool for those guys. I'm excited, and then Kylie has got an EP. It's going to be coming out in the spring, but the first release is in October. So she's got new music and a lot more, but that's just like what comes to top of my mind. You know, we're really right in the process of really Clint and I sitting down saying, hey, this is what we've got to deal with. Let's go start making some things happen.
Well, that is good stuff. Great stories. I've learned a lot. I've scratched the surface on some things, but I have loved having you on here. I obviously am a big fan of all the guys that you work with as well. So we're super excited to see what happens with you and Erv Woolsey Co. and with Davison's and Kylie. And, yeah, it's just been great to have you on here.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you, Alan.
I'll talk to you soon.